Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of Happy Strong Family, live from Masjid Darul Iman. My name is Uruj, and I will be your host for today. Today, we have with us a returning guest who I had the opportunity to host a couple of episodes ago, not too long ago, just before Ramadan. So, alhamdulillah, so nice to connect back with her, which such an important topic. We have with us Sister Iman. She's an herbalist and an educator, an author and a researcher in Islamic and Prophetic Medicine. And her approach to wellness is a blend of herbal medicine with prophetic medicine. So, Jazakallah khair for joining us today, Sister Iman. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing today?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan for having me here. Bismillah, Rabbi shahli sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. I'm really excited to be back, and I actually brought some goodies with me too for you to try out.
Oh, very nice. So, the topic for today is about trendy herbs, overusing of herbs and supplements, and healing through the prophetic and Islamic medicine. But before we get into that, if you can just set the stage for the audience, because I find that general population may get confused in terms of what's an herb and what's a supplement. Are they same? Are they different? So maybe if you can sort of define them using some examples, that would really help.
Sure. So I want you to think of herbs as things that you could eat or drink. So they typically will come in format like the actual seed. Even lemons are considered a herb. Arugula would be considered a herb. These are things that you could eat yourself at home. So you can make a
Okay.
herbal tea yourself.
Mm.
And so when we're talking about using herbs at home or using herbs as part of your diet, this is something that's going to be more on the nutritive side. Like, so this is a nutritive dose. You're not
Okay.
eating large quantities that would be medicinal. What happens is when you move to supplements are more concentrated. They tend to be extracts of the herb itself. So, for instance, when you buy black seed oil, you're not getting the entire black seed because the black seed contains fibers, contains trace minerals, it contains proteins and carbohydrates and oils. But when you just take a black seed oil pill, you're only taking the oil extract out of it. So supplements tend to be focused on not the entire herb, not the entire plant itself. It's an extract of it,
Extract.
and it
Mhm.
tends to be in a much higher dose. So it's
Mm.
meant to be more therapeutic. And I think one of the issues is that everyone has access. It's not regulated. Everyone has access. They can go to any store to buy this, and they don't even know sometimes how this is going to affect them.
Right. And I see that you brought some jars with you today. What are these? Are these like samples to take home or?
No, this is going to be your taste testing. While we speak, I think it'd be really interesting for you to taste some of these herbs as we're going through the discussion. And then we kind of monitor how you're feeling. What's it taste like in your mouth? Have you noticed any changes in your mouth, in your sinuses? Just to show the example of how quickly herbs can affect you and foods. And
Hmm.
even within 5 minutes, you're going to notice a difference in your mouth. So we're going to
Okay.
start you off with the black seed.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. And so I'm going to want you just to take, I'm going to give you a little bit less than a quarter of a teaspoon. So all you have to do is chew and swallow that. And try to chew it thoroughly. Ask your next question. No, I was going to say ask your next question, but make sure you chew it.
Hmm. Um. So while I chew on that,
Hmm.
my next question to really start the topic: what are trendy herbs, and what are we seeing on social media? Maybe like talk to us about that, and sort of kind of guide us in terms of how as Muslims should we approach that.
I think one of the biggest dangers with social media is that any influencer or anybody can now, go online and talk about something,
Hmm.
even if they don't have very much knowledge about it. And people will tend to follow anything they see online. If someone is popular, if they're doing something, if they give a testimony that they like it, automatically people will just start doing it. You'll see this with things like ginger. I've seen, guys who are about to work out, who'll take a big bite of ginger and say, oh, this is my pre-workout routine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because they're doing it and it might feel good for them temporarily, it doesn't mean that the long-term effects of what they're doing is going to be healthy. It also doesn't mean it's suitable for everybody. Um, you have to keep in mind something like ginger, although everybody promotes it and everyone says it's amazing, it's not suitable for everyone. It has contraindications as well, meaning if it can interact with people's medications, it can interact with people's health conditions. Someone who has
Mm.
gastritis, it might make it worse for them. Is someone who's got heavy menses, it might make them bleed more. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we should just all blindly follow what one person online says. Like there's a lot more knowledge that needs to be taken. Like I won't put anything in my mouth until I've researched it. I will not eat anything as a herb or as a supplement until I've thoroughly done my research. Like, is this going to work for me with my health conditions? I notice you're making faces with the black seed. How are you feeling?
Well, the taste is very strong,
Okay.
and I feel like it's drying a
Okay.
little. Um, and a little bit of heat, I would say, for me. But yeah, and the seeds are so drying too. Maybe I need some water, maybe to
No,
swallow
I'm
it.
gonna get you to drink the milk. I'm gonna get you
Oh,
to
now,
yeah, yeah,
eh?
yeah. But well, because black seed is instant. You're gonna feel it instantly, right? So it is drying.
Mhm.
It might feel like it's burning in your throat.
A little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of people complain that, oh, it burns my throat. Is it good for me, bad for me? So this is part of the sensation. It is a bitter, pungent herb. It's going to be sharp in the throat. It is drying. I gave you a dose, so this would be considered a medicinal dose.
So
No.
are we supposed to take this as a just chew the seeds? Because I know that some people sort of boil them in water as well. So
Well,
is there
boiling
a
it in water
difference?
is only going to make it more bitter. And again, boiling in water is water extraction. So it
Okay.
just depends on whether you want to take an extraction or you want to take the entire thing. But you chewed and swallowed. I know a lot of people that just put it in water and swallow it. That you're not going to get any benefit from just
Oh,
swallowing the whole seed.
really?
No. So if you've ever fed a baby corn and then changed its diaper, you see that the corn comes out exactly as it goes in.
Okay.
So that's the same with black seed. If you don't break it down, seeds, any flax seed, black seed, coriander seeds, any seed that we consume, if we don't chew it down and break it with our teeth, it's going to come out the exact same way. You're not going to absorb any of the nutrients.
Okay, this may be a little off topic, but is that similar for chia seed as well? Because I know a lot of us, we have to soak it in water for it to become the way it does.
Right.
And then we usually swallow it. I don't think we're chewing.
Right. So once you soak something in water, there's water extraction that's going on. So water will start to extract the nutrients.
Okay.
But then also the reason why people take chia seeds and water like that is because it's more used as a bulking laxative. It's going to move things through. It isn't
Mm.
necessarily to cause heat or dryness in the body. Let me get you to drink the milk.
Okay. Nice.
And then, well, in 5 minutes, we'll see how your throat feels then. So yes, things like chia seed, because it's soaking in water, there is some of the medicinal properties being extracted by the water.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's not just social media that you're seeing all these trends at, right? I feel that if I go to, let's say, Healthy Planet, grocery stores,
Yes.
they have these demonstration tables. They have, free samples for you to take home. And who doesn't want free samples? But it's like,
Right.
it's a marketing strategy to get you to use certain things. So, how do we approach that? I mean, it's not just in social media. We can't just, take that off of our eyes, but it's everywhere.
It's a business, right? It's
Mhm.
actually a $1 trillion business. It makes a lot of money for the companies. You have competing products on the market. I don't know if you know, but in Islamic medicine, when Islamic medicine was on the rise, one of the things that Islamic medicine did is it separated the doctor from the pharmacist. So the doctor was no longer able to prescribe the medications that they wanted the patient to use and sell it to them. So if
Mhm.
I was a doctor, 500, 600 years ago, I wouldn't be allowed to prescribe a medication and sell it to my patient
Mhm.
because there is a conflict of interest between the one who's recommending what you should buy and the one who's recommending what you need for your health. There's a conflict of interest. As soon as money's involved, we don't really care whether it's beneficial or not. People just want to sell the product. That's all they're focused on. So the reason why we have doctors who tell you what herbs you need to take, or herbalists that tell you what herbs you need to take, is so that you have someone who actually knows your health, knows what you need, and gives you the right recommendation. This is one of the reasons why I actually don't sell herbs. People ask me all the time, why don't you sell herbs? Why don't you sell kush or black seed or all of these things? And I said, because I don't want it to taint the authenticity of what I'm prescribing. Like if I'm
Mhm.
telling someone to take a herb and I genuinely believe that sage is good for you, I don't want it to affect my pocket that you bought sage from me. If I want to give it to you just as a recommendation, whoever you buy it from is up to you.
Mm.
And so I think when you're going to these places and people are just pushing products, you have to think about it, that this is no different from, pharmaceuticals. It really is no different because at the end
Right.
of the day, they're only thinking about making their own profit.
Mhm.
And I'm not raining on the parade of all these providers of natural supplements. I think some of them are good, but I always think that there needs to be someone who's in charge of your health, like your doctor, your herbalist, your naturopath, who's giving you the recommendations. People should not be allowed to just go and take any prescriptions or any herbs that they want. The same with pharmaceuticals. You can't go to the pharmacy and say, hey, I'd like, antibiotic, I want amoxicillin and I want to go home and
Right.
just take it for myself. No, you can't make that decision because you don't have the education.
Right.
I think we treat herbs like it's different, but it was the original pharmacy. It's just
Right.
right now it's become a trendy product.
Right. I think, speaking of trends, I've noticed Shilajit, I think that's what
Yes,
it's referred to.
Shilajit.
There's such high information in terms of quick way to lose weight.
Right.
And the other thing I find on social media is that influencers are like, hey, buy my product because it's better, or buy this person's product because it's better.
Right.
Because a lot of these products, I don't know if they're tested, they're regulated, but they may be diluted, they may have fillers and things like that.
So I'm going to answer that, but before I want to know how's the milk doing.
Very dry. It's
Okay.
supposed to be, I don't know, but
You're still dry from the black seed.
I guess.
Okay.
So my throat is dry as well. There's no form of saliva.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just dry.
Okay. So we're going to wait a little bit longer for the milk to kick in.
Okay.
And then we'll go. But I'll answer that question. With regards to Shilajit, first of all, Shilajit is not a plant. It doesn't come from a plant. Shilajit is a substance that forms almost through pressure and time. It looks like tar, and what it is it's like the residue of all these different plants that are decomposing in the mountains. Now I want you to think, the only thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls as shifa in the Qur'an is honey. So in the Qur'an, only two things are mentioned as shifa: the Qur'an itself, and the only food that's mentioned as shifa in the Qur'an is honey. And now honey is accessible where?
Everywhere.
Worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Every part of the world you can grow honey through the bees feeding on plants of that
Correct.
region, right? It's not exclusive to just the Himalayan mountains where people
Right.
have to pay hundreds of dollars and you don't even know if it's, got any heavy metals in it. You don't really know the substance itself. So Shilajit is a product that is a byproduct of decomposition that's going on through natural process. It's not necessarily a plant that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. It could be a combination of many different plants that are decomposing at the same time. It doesn't really fall under a herb. It doesn't really fall under a herb. It's a substance that people are using as medicine. Does it have an effect? Absolutely. You're going to see as you eat, everything's going to have an effect on your body.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the long-term effect of people taking Shilajit? What is it going to do to the liver long-term? What is it going to do to their hormones long-term? What is it going to do to their stomach lining long-term? These are things that most people, when they start to take these products that haven't been well researched and maybe aren't natural, maybe are just created through processes or artificially made, they don't realize until 20, 30 years later that, oh, by the way, now this is the after effect of what we just did. Right. So I'm someone who prefers to stick to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made easy for us. Honey is local everywhere.
Right.
You're not going to find anything more potent than honey. You're not going to find anything more powerful than honey.
Right.
So if people need an energy boost, a teaspoon of honey will go a long way. If people need stomach healing, a teaspoon of honey is going to go a long way. There's so much that honey offers. Antibacterial, antimicrobial, antiviral, antifungal. There's just so many things that I think people get stuck in wanting to find that rare herb, their rare product that comes from the Himalayan mountains,
Right.
and pay hundreds of dollars for it when you've got healing right at your fingertips that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made easy and accessible for all of us.
So would you say that it's okay to take honey on a regular basis?
Absolutely. I think you should be taking honey every day.
Oh, okay.
So honey is a food, it's a drink, it's a medicine, it's a dessert. And I think Ibn al-Qayyim mentions 5 of them. I can't remember what the 5th one is, but it's a food, it's a drink, it's a medicine, and it's a, I just lost it. So this is definitely something you would be taking every day. And at the end, we're going to have you take it and I'll explain why I did that
nice.
at the end.
Okay. But I mean, I think just the hopping onto trends and stuff, you said that, there's a long-term impact
Right.
of, let's say, for example, taking Shilajit or taking ginger on a regular basis.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily think that way is because we don't necessarily look at health holistically all
Right.
the time. And we also, at times, we're looking for a quick fix.
Absolutely.
Right? We just want to, I'm not like, if I'm sitting on my desk all day long, working away, I'm not thinking about exercising. I'm not thinking about eating well. I'm like, okay, how can I get my energy levels up by taking such and such? Right? I think that's really the mindset that we have. And how do we sort of go away from that mindset? How do we shift our mindset from that?
Well, it has to come from within. You have to want to do things right as opposed to doing things quick. It's kind of like microwaves, right? If you want to cook a meal in the microwave, yes, you might destroy a lot of the nutrients. Is there any benefit to doing it that way? I would never. I actually don't own a microwave. Um,
Okay.
so this quick fix that people are trying to do, like this ordering in, this drive through foods, everything that we're trying to do that's quick, the more convenience that's involved, it may seem easier up front, but it's going to have a longer negative effect. Believe it or not, it's better for you to park your car and go into the store than to do a drive through. It's better for you to do that walk, even if it's 2 minutes to get to the store, than to constantly just use all of these conveniences. So the conveniences are actually detrimental to our
Right.
health. And we tend to get so, and it creates more fatigue. Now, the hard way is to figure out what you're eating and not eating that's causing the fatigue or causing the headaches or causing the bloating. That's the hard work that people need to do.
Like the root cause,
You
getting to the
have to
root
get to the
cause.
root cause. But most people don't want to do that. They say, well, instead of taking a pill, what herb can I take? And I say, well, that's not the way herbal medicine works. Because it's not swapping herb. Like, you can't have a poor diet and just expect that black seed is going to cure it. It doesn't. Right? You might actually create more issues in your body by trying to take supplements to offset a bad diet or a sedentary lifestyle, right? So we have to make lifestyle changes. We can't just expect that a herb or a pill or Shilajit or ginger is going to be the quick fix. And then there is interactions. It's going to interact with medications. It's going to interact with other foods that you're eating. So I'll give you an example. Today I'm coming in. I knew I was going to be doing the podcast. Obviously, there's a lot of energy. The heart races a little bit before you sit in front of a camera. I didn't take my morning tea because I know that tea has caffeine. That's going to excite my heart a little bit. If I sit in front of a camera, if my heart gets too excited, then I'm going to be breathless. Right. So it's really learning to understand your
Being
body.
mindful,
And so I
basically.
also won't eat before I come onto a presentation because the body needs to digest the food. But I'm going to be like in this excited state of talking, and that's going to interfere with my podcast. Right. So people need to learn how their body works. They need to learn how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. They need to understand the principles of, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us certain foods? And if we study the lifestyle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it gives us that. It makes it easier for us.
Right.
Any changes in the throat?
I just felt like mucus a little bit.
Okay.
But still a little dry.
So the black seed is drying and the milk is mucus forming. Now, milk is, so when I say mucus forming, it's not in a bad way. It actually helps harmonize. So if there's excessive dryness, drinking milk does actually help it. So you're going to start to feel that the mucus is building. Now, you notice that the black seed, you only took less than a quarter of a teaspoon. And for the milk, you had to drink almost a quarter of a cup.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that this is far more potent
Right.
in terms of the effect that it had on your body within 5 minutes.
Right.
And the milk is still going to take time before you feel more. So I'm going to get you to do some lemon.
Oh, okay.
Just bite onto a lemon.
Okay.
And then you
This
can
one
ask
is
your next
okay?
question. Yeah, just bite onto it a little bit.
It's too early in the morning on Sunday to do this.
Sorry.
It's okay. A little bit more? Or?
A little bit more. Now, lemon is going to be one of those things that you're going to have an immediate reaction to. So what are you feeling right now immediately in your mouth?
I guess a little bit of saliva.
Yes.
Just less drying. And the throat is kind of like dried up a little still.
Okay.
Yeah, the saliva forming.
You're feeling more saliva forming because of
Yes.
it. So yes, it does stimulate saliva. And it's actually going to stimulate digestion as well. So you might start to feel like, oh, you're getting hungrier in the next 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Now, also depending on your body type. So I'm going to be assuming that you're choleric body type just by your bone structure that I see. So your reaction to the black seed is going to be a lot more than somebody like me who's phlegmatic reacting to black seed. So based on the body type, the herbs that we take also will have a much different effect. So for you,
Right.
the black seed dose is probably way too big. You would need something less so that it doesn't stay dry for very long. Whereas someone like me, I could probably handle a bigger dose because I have more dampness in my system than you would. Lemon, for instance, was going to stimulate bile. So for someone like you who's choleric, you already have a lot of bile production. Like drinking lemon water for someone like you would not be a good idea. So a lot of
Okay.
people who do the trend of drinking lemon water first thing in the morning, that's going to produce a lot of stomach acidity first thing in the
Oh,
morning.
yeah, I've tried that. and
Yeah.
that's what it does. Is done that to me. So I think maybe in few days
Yes.
I've started noticing that, and also caused a little bit of, I'm not sure if that's related to the lemon, but it caused a little bit of dizziness as well.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
stopped. I
Yes.
stopped
So it's not
completely.
suitable for you at all. In fact, I don't recommend lemon water for anybody in the morning,
Hmm.
because you already wake up in a state of dehydration. You already wake up in a state of starvation. Your digestive juices are already hungry. You need to eat first. If you what you do with lemon water in the morning is you're detoxifying your liver. That's going to make you feel a little bit dizzy. It's also going to increase your stomach acidity. So for someone who already has too much bile or is already very hungry first thing in the morning, taking lemon water first thing in the morning is actually not good for them. Maybe for someone who's got a lot of mucus, who's not hungry, who doesn't have an
Hmm.
appetite, it's a stimulant. But again, one size doesn't fit all. We can't have everybody doing the same thing.
Hmm. Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. So kind of going back to the herb trendy herbs and stuff. And you talked a little bit about, the doctors and the pharmacists being separate now. But even let's say you're on certain medications and things like that, and you go to your doctor and you're like, oh, what do I try for this? Can I take the supplement? I'm taking so and so medication. Can I take this? And it's always yes that there's no problem.
Right.
Just because a lot of these things are over the counters, and you kind of make your own decisions, and you
Right.
read the claims, and it is misleading marketing. And a lot of it speaks to you as well. So if you're feeling, let's say, more inflammation, if you're feeling stressed out, you'll see the claims on actual product, like, or reduces stress, or helps boost immunity, or things like that. So this misleading marketing really traps you into the idea that you need these products to sustain your health.
Right. But if we changed our belief, then it wouldn't affect us. So, for instance, all of this marketing doesn't affect me at all. They can sell millions of products on the stores. I can go into Healthy Planet. I can go into Shoppers. I can go into any herbal stores, and I don't look at these products and say, "Oh my God, I need it," because
Mm.
my belief system is different when it comes to herbs and medicine. First of all, doctors are not trained in herbs, so they won't know anything. In fact, most of them are going to caution you against it because they understand through their studies that there is going to be an interaction between herbs, medicine. So the
Okay.
majority of doctors, if you go to a doctor and say, "Oh, I want to take ashwagandha," they're going to say, "I don't recommend you take it. You're taking medications. There's going to be interactions that we don't know about." So most doctors don't, like, if you go to a hospital and you say I've had herbal tea, they're going to say, "Oh, that's probably the reason why you're in here," right? That
Okay.
they actually do believe that,
Mm.
because they don't have any education in it, they don't study the herbs, they don't understand the herbs, but they know from studying pharmaceuticals that the herbs are going to interact.
Okay.
I used to have UFT medical books, and in their pharmacology section and also in their ER section, they used to have like what herbs people could take that lands them in ER. So they would
Okay.
name certain herbs, like if the person says they've taken licorice root, if the person says they've done this, St. John's wort, these are some of the side effects of taking these herbs. They did actually list it that way, which was kind of fascinating when I read it. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. But it kind of gives it a negative light. I think naturopaths are going to be the closest to the doctors that are going to have the both of best worlds. They will know more about prescriptions, and they will also know more about herbs. So that would probably be the safest medical person to go to. Herbalists will know more about the herbs, but they don't really study pharmaceuticals. So I don't like have a in-depth understanding of every pharmaceutical. I know they're going to interact.
Right.
So when somebody comes to me and says, well, I'm taking metformin or I'm taking this medication, I don't like to give them a herb that I know could double the effect or can increase the absorption of that medication that they're taking. So I think we'll have some knowledge to help them, but I don't think it's enough for people to just be taking supplements. So let me ask you this: if I gave you a colander that had all these holes in it, and I said to you, fill up a bowl of water for me, can you fill it with water?
Yeah, well, it's drain out.
Yeah.
I can,
So
but it would eventually leak.
what's the base problem? Is it that the water is not filling?
No, it's the colander.
It's the colander. It's because I gave you the wrong tool to collect all of that water. The problem is if we're consuming foods that have all these holes in it that's constantly draining us or inflaming us or causing
Interesting.
fatigue or causing excessive menstrual bleeding, if just by adding more foods into it isn't going to solve the problem. So when you're taking a supplement, that's just like adding more food but in a concentrated dose.
Hmm.
So if the base problem is not solved, no matter how much more you take, you're not going to solve it. You're only going to create a bigger disbalance.
Right. So then again, I guess it's um, you may need certain things. So it's always better to consult with a naturopath, for example. Because
Yes.
as I said, there's a lot of products out there over the counter that, you could make the decision for yourself.
Right.
And the other thing I noticed is that there's no side effects listed on those. They're always really good for you. Because they're still considered so natural.
Right,
you
but
know?
that's all marketing gimmicks, right? And some of it I don't think should be allowed. And I don't want it to get to a point where everything is banned either. I do think that we should have accessibility to herbs. But I'm someone who believes that you should actually rebalance the diet first. So whenever someone comes to me for a health coaching session, the
Mhm.
first thing we do is, okay, well, let's look at your diet. So I'll give you an example. I had a sister who came to me and she said, I have developed tumors, breast tumors. She's having health issues in her uterus, and she's going to be needing maybe surgery for the breast tumors, maybe hysterectomy. Like, it was really messed up for her. And so I said to her, okay, well, she was asking, can I take black seed? Can I take this? She was always interested in the herbs first. And I said, well, let's slow down and say, let's go
Mhm.
through what you're eating first. Let's
Right.
talk about your diet, because where is this excessiveness coming from? So tumors are excessive growth. So where is this excessive growth coming from? Why do you have excessive estrogen in your system? It must be coming from somewhere, something that's not balanced, right? So I asked her to go through with me what she's eating. And, she said, I did it again. She said, I eat just red meat and veggies. I said, you don't eat grains? No, I don't eat grains. Well, why don't you eat grains? Well, because they cause bloating. Well, what about milk? Do you drink milk? No, I don't drink milk. She goes, I don't do any dairy products. I don't
Okay.
do a lot of fruits because they cause me bloating as well. And I said, so you're living off of just red meat and greens? And she goes, yeah, but this is a very healthy diet. And I said, well, how is it healthy when you've eliminated so many of the other food categories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said is our foods, right? I think there's a huge fallacy out there that just because you feel better by removing something that you've healed, you haven't healed. You've actually just avoided that which triggers you. But when foods trigger you in certain ways, they're actually telling you what's off balance. So our symptoms that we go through in our system, when you bloat, your body is telling you, like if you bloat after drinking milk, your body's telling you, I can't digest the lactose. So if you can't digest the lactose, you don't remove milk from your diet. You add that which helps you digest lactose.
Right. Okay.
Right. So we don't, and this is why I'm saying that's the whole colander, is that it's got so many holes in it, but we keep adding more things or we keep removing things that we think is going to fix it, but it doesn't. It keeps seeping through.
Right. So again, going back to the root cause, the holistic approach of sort of helping your body maintain health.
Which is why 80% of our health issues is going to be from diet. And I mean, there's a hadith about that. There's a hadith about the worst thing that you could fill, the worst vessel you could fill is your stomach. And then there's the traditional Arab doctors that used to say that the stomach is the home of disease and restraint is the cure. Right? So if we're just doing exactly what we're doing that got us into this position, and we're thinking we're only going to add a supplement or a herb in order to fix it, then the thinking is flawed. The question is flawed, right? I'm going to get you to do the salt.
Salt.
Just a pinch of salt.
Okay.
How's your throat right now?
Still dry.
Still dry.
Yeah. I took a little bit of water.
That's okay. Yeah. You'll notice how much salt did I give you?
Very little, just a pinch.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Even less. I would want you to do even less. Is that hard?
Oh my goodness.
Now salt is going to be immediate.
It's a lot of saliva producing.
Instantly. Right. So does your throat still feel dry?
No.
No.
Oh God.
Do you need a sip of water?
Yes.
Okay.
I should.
So is there a lot of mucus production right now? A lot of saliva production in your mouth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Instantly. Yeah.
Now, as we talk, that'll change, and then
Okay.
I'll ask you again about how it feels.
Okay.
So you can ask the next question, and then we'll get back to that.
Sure. So just kind of diving into these herbs that, are supplements that we're seeing in over the counters and stuff. And I work in the pharma industry, so I work with prescription drugs and medicines and things like that. And they're regulated, they're tested
Right.
For various factors.
Right.
And so certain supplements as well, because they're regulated under the Natural Health Product Directorate. So they are also tested for certain things.
Right.
But when it comes to these powders, let's say amla powder or whatever else,
Right.
They're not tested, they're not regulated. And there's always these reports that you see on social media about coming out about heavy metal finding
Right.
something like that, or high impurities and things like that. And if we're going to be using these kind of products on a daily basis for a long term, the non-essential heavy metals will really have a negative impact on our body.
100%. And I think the other problem with that is you said the long-term use.
Right.
Nothing should be long-term use, not even black seed.
Okay.
You should not be taking black seed every day for a year or for a lifetime. You should not be taking it. Why? Because you just felt the effects. It dried you out.
Right.
Imagine doing that to your body every day, drying it out, drying it out, drying it out. You're going to feel it in your eyes. You're going to feel it in your skin. You're going to feel it in your digestive tract. You're going to feel it in like your private reproductive areas. Everything will dry out. Where it doesn't just affect the mouth. What you're feeling now is going to go through your entire system. In fact, when you take black seed, it's a diuretic, which means it's going to take all that fluid out of your mouth, your throat, your stomach. All that fluid is going to get pulled and pass through your kidneys, and your bladder should be filling up as we speak.
Okay.
But by the time we get to the end of this podcast, you will probably feel like, wow, my bladder is full.
Okay, nice. And speaking of black seeds, there's also lots of products available.
Yes.
Right? There's the black seed oil capsules. There's the black seed gummies.
Yes.
And the claims that it's good for kids, take it every day, good for adults, for various things. How do you speak to that?
What do you think I'm going to say?
You're going to say, no, it's not good for you for every day, but it's out there.
It is out there, but I think
And
this
it's
is
not
where
just
we
in
have to be
some-
prudent, like really educated individuals, where anything that's claimed that you need to take every day is a marketing gimmick. I used to work in marketing.
Okay.
Right. One of the reasons I got out of it is because there is so much falsehood in marketing. You have to, I mean, if you go to the store, they'll tell you like, you look at the pastas, they'll tell you fortified with this and this and that. They make it sound so healthy. They'll make candy sound healthy, right? And that's the same that's being done to the nutraceuticals, these natural supplements, is that yes, it's healthy, but it needs to be at the right time for the right person in the right condition. It's not a blanket statement. We don't believe in Islamic medicine, there's no one size fits all. So even if I've got 5 kids, I can't give all my 5 kids the same supplement every single day for life, because every single one of them has different body types and different health conditions. So for one kid, it might really help him feel better. For another kid, it might give him nosebleeds. And a lot of the things that we do cause, they do have side effects that they don't mention, but it causes other symptoms in our body. I'll give you an example. I had one student in my class. God bless him. He was 70 years old and he took my master class to study about herbal medicine and prophetic medicine, all of that stuff. I was really honored that he took the class. But he said to me, he said, I'm having issues with my kidneys. And so I said, okay, well, let's go through what medications are you on and what supplements are you on? And he was on 7 different supplements.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at the supplements and I said, they're all diuretics, which means they all flush out the kidneys. I said, do you think that the herbs, the supplements that you're taking on a daily basis that your friends recommended are doing your body good? Because now you're at the hospital trying to figure out what's wrong with your
Right.
kidneys.
Oh my God.
Right. And people don't understand there is going to be long-term impact.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
How are you doing with the salt?
It's a little dry now.
Right.
Should I be feeling that way or?
Yes.
Yeah. It's dry.
So have you ever made steak and put salt on it and then seen all that fluid come on top of the steak that you need to dry
Juices
out?
just come out of it. Yeah.
That's the effect of what salt does to our tissues. So when you first put salt onto a tissue, the first thing it's going to do is going to pull out all of the fluid from the tissue. So what the salt did initially is it pulled out all the fluid from your gums, from your tongue, and put it up. So it really made you feel like it was hydrated. But then within 5 to 10 minutes, that water gets reabsorbed into the tissue, which is why salt causes water retention and high blood pressure.
Okay.
Now, if you had taken a bigger dose, you would have caused yourself heart palpitations because you would have moved the fluids in your body so drastically. And a little bit more salt, I mean, if you had a big dose of salt, which your body really can't handle, but you could kill yourself with salt.
Right.
Because if it messes up the salt levels that are supposed to be in your body, no matter how much water you drink, it'll never replenish it. You'll end up just flushing out all of the fluids.
Right. So is that just salt by itself, or like how we have salt in our food and
So
stuff?
this is even when you have salt in your foods, which is why you have to be careful. You see, the thing is, salt creates it dampens your taste buds. So when you put salt into your food, it enhances flavor, but it also dampens your taste buds, which means your threshold for salt needs to constantly increase for you to feel it. which is why you'll find people constantly shaking salt, because they've developed a threshold that they need to now elevate a little bit more to taste the food better. That's not going to be good long term, even though salt is something that you have every day. It's in your home. Again, these aren't even supplements. These are things that all of us use in our
Right. It's an everyday
daily
thing.
lives.
Right.
Which is why I wanted to show you this, because imagine if this is something that you have lemons at home, you have milk at home, you have salt at home. Imagine how quickly it's affecting your body without you knowing about it.
Right.
So imagine if you're taking these supplements that have like 1,000 mgs of black seed oil. How is that going to affect you if you don't know it, if you don't understand it? We also have to think that traditionally, if you went back 150 years, everybody had knowledge of herbs. Like every layman, every housewife had knowledge of herbs. They knew which herbs to take for pregnancy. They knew which herbs to take when you're breastfeeding. They knew what not to take if you have a heart condition or if you have a bleeding condition. They understood herbs because they had that knowledge passed down from generation to generation. Unfortunately, we've lost that knowledge. I can ask 100 different people, and I would say 95% will probably not know most things about herbs, like most basic things about herbs that we have in our household. They will not have any idea how it affects their body. We're not taught it anywhere. Our parents didn't pass it down to us. I know this because I had to learn it for myself. I had to learn it bit by bit, like herb by herb, experimenting, having having reactions to things that I was doing to myself, and then realizing, well, wait a minute, I just caused this reaction within myself based on what I just took.
Right.
I did that once. I was drinking grapefruit juice. I had juiced 2 grapefruits in a big mason jar, and I didn't, I heard it was good for weight loss, and I heard it was good for, your digestive system. And I'm like, great, I'm just going to drink that. So I didn't eat breakfast. I was just working away at the house, and I was just constantly sipping on this grapefruit juice. Well, about halfway through the cup, I almost fainted.
Oh my goodness.
Because it has a very steep detoxifying process. So it detoxifies the liver. And when you detoxify, sometimes you can make yourself sick. Right. So too much lemon water or too much grapefruit juice or even like apple cider vinegar with water, if you detoxify too quickly, you can make yourself sick.
So for our viewers, can you recommend some credible sources that they can, look after these sort of herbs and stuff and get the information they require? And maybe speak about your books as well. I know that you authored 2 books. And what information can we get from that?
So I think for the viewers, I think they need to stop going after supplements. I think the first thing that I would recommend to everybody is don't go after a supplement unless your healthcare provider, your naturopath, your doctor, your herbalist has told you to take it. So treat supplements like you would pharmaceuticals. You wouldn't just go to the pharmacy and say, give me metformin, I feel like taking it today. You wouldn't say, give me amoxicillin, I feel like taking that today. You wouldn't just experiment with your health with pharmaceuticals. Really treat these supplements and these powders and these extracts, treat them like their medication, and don't take them unless somebody has guided you to take it. And then I would say get educated on the basics. Learn how your body works from an Islamic medicine perspective. Learn how to understand your health conditions. Learn how the temperaments of our body types and the foods that we're eating affect us. I think if people focused on knowledge first, that's the safest route to go. Either trust someone who's done the research and the knowledge, and like a doctor, a healthcare provider, or do the work yourself. Invest in the knowledge first. But there's no shortcuts to getting healthy.
Right. So before we go into our next topic of healing through prophetic and Islamic medicine, we'll shift our gears towards Brother Kashif and see if there are any questions from the audience regarding trendy herbs or supplements in general.
So while we do that, can I get you to eat the arugula?
Sure. Do I have to hold the whole thing?
Try if you can, as much as you can.
Oh, really? Okay.
If you can.
To my salad for the day?
Yes, your greens for the day.
Yes, Jazakallah khair. So before we get to the questions, so a good segue into the question that Aruj asked was about learning. So you have a few things coming up, inshallah. So I just want to share those also on the screen here. So first of all, your Instagram handle, NuraSunna, NuraSunna. Let me also display it on the screen here so folks know. So you're very active on Instagram. You'll answer folks' questions. What kind of content are you posting?
I post all types of content. I do share downloads. I share recipes. I do talk about herbs, like just different things that I'll look for. Most of my focus is going to be on getting it naturally through food. I'm not an advocate of, are you struggling with
Very
that?
bitter.
I don't really promote products. You won't see me promoting people to take black seed oil or turmeric pills or ashwagandha. I'm not a supplement advocator. I think that somebody should, the person has to actually focus on their diet first, on understanding their body first, really more education. That's the kind of stuff that they're going to find on my Instagram and on my website, and my courses.
Yes, so the website is propheticmedicine.com, inshallah. So you can also go there. There's contact information. There's more info. Then you have a few courses and webinars coming up. So if we talk about this masterclass first, which is propheticmedicine.com/masterclass.
So the masterclass I launched 3 years ago. That was my very first course. And this masterclass is really an introduction to prophetic medicine, Islamic medicine, and herbalism. And what I've done in this course is I introduce people to their body types. I introduce them to the history of medicine from the time of the Prophet Muhammad SAW until now. How has it sort of evolved over time? We talk about the different temperaments of foods and how you can categorize foods into tastes or into temperaments. There's many different ways to categorize food and medicine. We also talk about what is the prophetic diet, what are the trendy diets telling us to do, should we be having dairy, meat, wheat, all the myths that are out there. I dispel a lot of myths, and then I teach 9 specific herbs, because I think that 9 herbs, if somebody learned how to use 9 herbs in their household, that would be sufficient. I don't think everybody needs to be a herbalist. I think people just need to have a few common herbs that they understand, that they trust, that they could use, and most of them are prophetic herbs that I use. So there'll be black seed, there'll be kustul hindi, there'll be olive leaf and stuff in that course. Now the course is, I taught it live in September of last year, but I'm offering the recording at 80% off. So anybody who's interested in purchasing the recording of this masterclass, this is the last time I'll be teaching this one. Once June is done, this course is going to be taken down. I'm revamping it completely, and anyone who buys this final version, if they want to apply the 99 USD that they purchased the course for towards the new course, I would just credit them the 99, so they can take the upgraded course for the additional amount of money.
Very nice.
Jazakallah khair. And then
Yeah.
also we have propheticmedicine.com/webinar. So I think there's a webinar coming up also, inshallah.
Yes, on June 26th, inshallah, which is a Thursday at 1 p.m. Toronto time, 6 p.m. in London, UK. I'm going to be doing a podcast on the body talk. So sort of walking you through when your body gives you bloating, when your body, like when your mouth dries out, what are these things mean? Because when we just avoid foods because it makes us bloat, or we avoid foods because it gives us this or that, then we're not really healing. We're just avoiding the symptoms. So what I want to do is actually help you understand, what do the symptoms mean, and how can we actually help you regain your health through that.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
So did you want to check in with her before we continue, or?
So tell me, how did the arugula?
Well, the taste was so bitter.
Okay.
But it doesn't seem as dry anymore.
Okay.
But I don't necessarily see a high amount of saliva being produced like I did for example, with salt,
Okay.
right? So it doesn't feel dry, but there's no production of saliva, if you can explain that. And it's a little bit cooling as well.
Okay.
So, with the black seed, it was so hot, and but with this, it's like nice and calming and cooling.
Right. So this is cooling
Okay.
and drying. So it will actually help flush out fluids as well.
Okay.
So it isn't going to produce, it's going to actually reduce the mucus that you would feel. So you would feel a little bit drier when you have this. But arugula is one of those herbs that's actually amazing for the liver, because it helps cool it down, especially for someone who's always excessively hot. This is the type of herb that you would want to have consuming in your diet. So arugula is one of those herbs that I say you should be eating on a regular basis, as much as you can. Arugula is one of those herbs that the body needs the bitter taste, but also that cooling effect. It's anti-inflammatory. That cooling effect reduces inflammation. And it also helps to balance out some of the other things that we're eating. But again, if you'll notice, the black seed, we took a small pinch. The milk, you needed a quarter cup. The lemon, you needed just a bite. The salt, it was a very small pinch. But the arugula, you almost ate, almost a cup. This is like almost half a cup of what you ate. You'll notice that like the natural stuff that we eat, the green leaves, you're going to need a bigger amount compared to the seeds. When you're doing seeds, you're going to need a much smaller amount. So this is also learning how to
Okay.
dose things in your own house when you're eating.
Nice.
Is that we can't assume that you could just take. I mean, I had one person say to me, "Oh, I take a tablespoon of black seed oil every morning," and I thought, "Oh my God, that's like horrible. That's like like that's excessive in terms of the amount that we're consuming for the body, because that would really dry out the body." So dosage matters. I think that's really important. So right now you're feeling cool
Yes.
and your mouth is a little bit dry.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna move
Honey.
to honey.
Oh,
And I want you to
nice.
take a teaspoon of that.
Okay. Let's try
There you go.
this.
And do you have any questions?
Yes, inshallah. So yeah, so Jazakallah khair to all the questions and comments that have come up. So yeah, it's a good segue because there was a few things related to honey here. So let
Okay.
me just pull those up. So yeah, someone is commenting, and I'm not familiar with it, but maybe they're saying 5 things honey is, because I think you were mentioning the 5
Yes.
things: a cure, an antibiotic, a digestive aid, a source of nourishment, and a balm for wounds.
No, that's not what Ibn al-Qayyim says. There's
Oh, okay.
there in Islamic medicine. There's a different explanation. So when you say a medicine, yes, that would be an antibiotic. That would be a balm. That would contain all of that. But Ibn al-Qayyim in his book, he actually lists 5 things that honey is. So it's a food, it's a drink, it's a dessert, like something you can sweeten your mouth with. It's a medicine, and then there was one more that I'll have to look up and inshallah upload that as a video because I can't remember the 5th one.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. So
But yeah.
then there was another question about honey. Sorry, I got to.
And with regards to honey, there's thousands of things. You could write an entire encyclopedia on just the things that honey can do. So it's antifungal, it's anti-inflammatory, it's wound healing. It can help with skin infections. It can help with pimples. It can help with so many things topically and internally. I've used it for wounds. I've used it for diaper rashes, like smearing honey on a diaper rash of a baby and then putting the diaper back on. Instantly, the crying stops. Like there's so many different uses. So you could write books. 5 wouldn't be sufficient. But it was more the categories that Ibn al-Qayyim had said as to what are the 5 things that honey would be used for.
I mean, I quickly Googled it, so I don't obviously I don't trust Google, but it says a food, a drink, a sweet, a remedy, a refreshment / ointment. So
Okay.
I don't know if those are the 5
Similar.
or not, but
Yeah.
Obviously I'm not saying that I trust Google necessarily. But then the question came up about honey is, what should I look for when purchasing honey? What is good quality versus bad quality?
So when you're purchasing honey, you want to make sure it's raw and unpasteurized. You don't want pasteurized honey because boiling honey is going to change its microbial composition as well as its enzymes. You always want it to be unpasteurized. Honey should be thick. You'll notice that was thick. It isn't something that should be very thin when you're consuming it. Honey should not dissolve easily in water. So if I took a teaspoon of honey, put it into water, you can't just stir it like maple syrup and just dissolve it. It should take hours before it kind of breaks down with the water. So you want to make sure it's viscous. I prefer to buy honey with honeycomb, where you're actually getting the entire structure. And again, that's similar to sort of black seed versus black seed oil. When you eat it with the honeycomb, you're getting it unfiltered. You're getting the honeycomb, which has the beeswax, which is also good for you. There might be some pollen in that, which is also good for you. So you're kind of getting the whole package. So learning to eat honeycomb with honey is actually quite beneficial. And we don't want to use honey just as, you could use it as a sweetener for your coffee, tea. You could make desserts with it. Traditionally, they did make desserts with honey, even though it was heated. So from an Islamic medicine perspective, they didn't believe that heating honey was bad, the way a lot of Ayurvedic traditions say that you shouldn't heat honey, becomes toxic. Islamic medicine didn't believe that. But I don't think we should also just make desserts with honey and then consume it in large doses and think it's good for us, right? Because anything in excess, even if you were to consume all of this honey right now, this entire, it's not even a quarter, 1/8 of a cup, you would not feel well.
Okay.
Any changes right now?
So it's coating the throat a little bit. There's a little production of saliva, I would say, not too much. But that's pretty much it.
So no longer feels dry.
Doesn't feel
Okay.
dry.
And are you still feeling cool?
Not entirely, no.
Okay. Okay.
A little bit of heat production, maybe because it's just so strong. I don't know.
Well, honey is warming and moistening.
Okay.
So your temperature should warm up. So this was cooling. This cooled you down. This should
Yes.
bring it back up to being
It
warm
is
and
a little
moist.
bit, yeah.
And the moisture in your throat should be higher than what it was with the arugula.
Yes.
And you'll notice I was switching between what I knew would be cooling and dampening and drying. Like I was switching back and forth
Mhm.
just so that you could feel the distinctiveness between them.
Oh, yes. Yes.
We only had like 6 different things. Can you imagine what we eat in a day?
Right.
Our body, food, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created every single plant and food that we consume that comes with coded instructions. Think of it like program coding.
Mm.
So as soon as you put like that chip in the computer, there's a code that tells it what to do. Every time you put a piece of food or herb or anything into your mouth, it instantly gives it instructions of what the body needs to do.
Mm.
Now, if you're making a smoothie in the morning with 8 different ingredients from different parts of the world, what kind of instructions are you giving your body?
Yeah, you're just telling it to kind of shift between different taste and changes that you can experience. So it's not a good kind of instruction.
Right, if you don't understand how everything is going to interact. The reason why they combine honey and black seed together in a lot of products where you'll find ground black seed with honey is because the drying and warming component of this black seed is going to be off balance by the moistening component of the honey. So it actually makes it easier to consume certain things in pairs or in threes. Like that's the way herbalists traditionally would balance foods out.
Right.
So sugar was used as a harmonizer. Sugar reduces the bitterness of bitter foods. So a lot of medications are sweetened with sugar to reduce the bitterness.
Right.
Right. So these are things that, I mean, again, we consume foods constantly, but we don't know if we're consuming too much of one thing that's going to lead us off balance. And I think that's why it's important that people learn the temperaments of food, the temperaments of their body. They really start to understand how it affects us, because you're not going to find that in modern medicine. You're not going to find that in any of the modern trendy diets that are out there. This has to come from traditional Islamic medicine.
And there's also a talk about, so speaking of that, let's say if you want to take turmeric, and if you want it to be absorbed well in your body, take it with black pepper, for example. Right. So kind of having that knowledge also helps.
Right.
To not just take it on its own, but certain things may sort of impact your body positively when taken with the right
And
material.
everything impacts. So when you take lemon, for instance, when you're consuming foods that are like proteins or greens, you need to have something acidic with it, like lemons or apple cider vinegar, so that it can improve the digestion of what you're just eating. So when you eat meat with arugula, the arugula helps you break down the fats that are in meat and absorb it better, so that you don't struggle digesting protein. When you do lemon with protein or spinach, it helps you absorb the nutrients. It helps you absorb the iron that's in that food. For instance, any vegetable that you're consuming, if you're not consuming with it a fat, you're not going to be able to absorb the nutrients in the greens, which is why most salad dressings have an oil in it. Right? So there is a science. If you study traditional nutrition, there is a science as to how they combine things in order to make them medicinal and better absorbed.
Okay, so can we talk a little bit about like some of the prophetic herbs that are mentioned in the Hadith, and how do we want to incorporate those in our lives on a daily basis, or whatever basis that it would look like?
So I would never say on a daily basis. I would say that you're going to use it as a therapeutic. So when somebody came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and mentioned that they had constipation, he didn't recommend that they take senna leaves every day.
Okay.
He said to take senna leaves, right? But you take it as a therapeutic, not as a nutrition. It's not something that you do on a daily basis. So really, we need to start shifting our focus to, is this something that's part of my daily nutrition? Or is this something that's therapeutic that I only take when I'm not feeling well? So I will only take black seed as a therapeutic when I'm not feeling well. If I'm coming down with a cold, if I've got a headache, if there's some cramping pain, anything, I will take my black seed pill or my black seeds, depending on what's accessible to me. I will take it as a therapeutic for that particular thing. I'm not going to put myself on a black seed regimen where I'm taking it every day for life. I will not do that. Honey, however, is something that was considered a food. So you would consume it daily. Salt is obviously something you need as part of your daily diet. Other things I usually do based on their season. So if something is seasonally available, I will eat it. If it's not seasonally available, I will not eat it. So if it doesn't grow in that season, I won't do it. So when it comes to prophetic herbs like senna leaves has also negative side effects. So if you continue to use senna leaves beyond the 3 or 4 days, you can become addicted to it, and your intestines will stop functioning if you use it all the time. Wow. So this is where I really stress that it's important to study these things. You have to study the herbs. Remember, they knew their herbs back then. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wasn't a doctor, but they had knowledge of herbs because this was what they did on a day-to-day basis. He knew that senna was better than the other herb that the person was using, and he said that herb is too hot and dry. There was another herb that the person mentioned in that hadith that they were using. He said that herb is too hot and dry, you should use senna. Even something like miswak. Miswak is a herb.
Right.
When you put miswak into your mouth, it changes the saliva composition of your mouth.
Mm.
It thins it out. It has a salty taste. So it affects
Right.
the microbial composition of your mouth. So even senna, we often think of it like a toothbrush, but it's not a toothbrush. It's a herb, and it's got medicinal properties, and it affects the body when you put it into your mouth. It's also anti-inflammatory. You know, if I ever have like swollen gums or I'm in pain, I'll just chew on my miswak at the back, and it'll reduce the inflammation that I'm feeling.
So what do you recommend for senna leaf? Is that something that, when should we take that?
So for instance, senna leaves, you would only take it if you've got constipation, it's excessive, nothing else is working, meaning you've tried honey water, it's not working, you've tried prunes or prune juice and it's not working, you're really feeling stuck, then you would take senna leaves, but you wouldn't do it for beyond 3 days.
And how do you take that?
You make it into a tea, so a teaspoon into hot boiling water,
Oh, just a teaspoon.
a teaspoon of the leaves into hot water that's boiled, then you turn it off, you add your senna leaves. I usually combine it with other herbs to reduce the cramping effect, because senna leaves, how it works is it irritates your gut in order to flush everything out. Now, that's not going to feel good. If you've got constipation and you're going to irritate your gut to move things, it's not going to feel good. So traditionally, we're told, like if you study traditional Islamic medicine, that you should pair it with other things. You could pair it with honey, you could pair it with butter, you could pair it with fennel seeds in order to ease the movement of the bowels and reduce the cramping effect.
Okay, yeah, because recently I was watching this video and it was about senna leaves, and this person basically they took a handful in 2 cups of water,
Okay.
and they recommended having this every day.
You would destroy your bowels.
Really?
You would destroy your bowels. Your bowels would stop functioning, and you would not be able to have a bowel movement then without senna.
I see.
So, I mean, there has to be, again, it's so dangerous with the things that people share online, and we have no control. You can't stop it. There's millions of people who have social media, and anybody can post anything. And you don't know if these are people who are intending ill or just intending fame. You don't know what's the reasoning behind this. Most people, you don't even know what their education is.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there's also a comment here, someone saying from IG that came in that keep in mind that influencers are like getting paid to promote products. Don't fall the trap of influencer marketing if promoting specific product, even religious and Islamic influencers. You know, Allah knows best, but that is something to keep in mind, that the influencers that you love and follow, more often than not, they might be getting paid if they're
Yes.
trying to promote a specific product, and most people don't recognize that.
And I think one of the biggest ways to combat the ignorance is with knowledge.
Right.
Right. So if
sure.
we are ignorant, we don't know what's good or not, we don't know what's truth or falsehood, then the more you study the Sirah, the more you study the Quran, the more you study the principles of Allah, of how He's created illness and healing, then you wouldn't be easily influenced by the things that are going on around you. So I think there's a statement that says that the knowledge removes darkness, right? Knowledge is nur, it's going to
Right.
remove darkness.
Right.
And if we're feeling darkness from all this overwhelm of information out there, the cure to that is knowledge.
Right. So I have one question. I know this person, and they take care of their health really well. They look after food that they're eating. They do their research on terms of supplements, powders, and things like that. And recently they started this drink. And they do this every day. So I just want to know, is that good or bad? Okay. So it's with warm water, and they eat fennel. They put a little bit of fennel seeds, a little bit of turmeric and black pepper powder, and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And they have this every day.
Okay.
So I just want to know, is that going to negatively impact them
It could long term.
long term?
So what happens is that when you take something every day in small doses, it's going to slowly chip away at whatever it is that you're trying to bring into balance. So let's just say the person has excessive mucus production, and taking apple cider vinegar every day is going to reduce the mucus production that they have and actually bring them to balance. So, on day 1, it's here, day 2, 3, 4, it's here. They're going to get to a point where they're balanced. Now their body is good. They can stop. But they don't stop, so they continue. Well, what happens? You're still now taking out the moisture from the body. So this is the reason why anything long term is not going to be good. Even herbs, I don't drink sage tea every day for life. I rotate the herbs. I use the herbs based on how I'm feeling. So if my stomach is upset, I might use this herb. If my lungs are upset, I might use thyme. If I'm edgy and I'm anxious, I might use a calming herb. But even if I drank a relaxing nervine every single day before going to bed, although a lot of them may not be addictive, some of them can be. Right? We don't want anybody to be addicted to anything. And remember, cocaine is a plant and nicotine is a plant, right? So just because something is natural, just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it, doesn't mean you can't become addicted to it.
Interesting. Yeah, because all these tonics out there that you can use for so many different things to help your body, right? And you just get into that like trap that, oh yeah, I'm going to use this on a daily basis. It'll help me with this.
Again, anything that's every day. So I don't believe in like colon cleanses. I don't believe in parasite cleanses. I don't, none of that falls under Islamic medicine. You only use that stuff if you're curing an issue that you have. We all have parasites in our colon, in our bowels, and you're supposed to have parasites. They belong there. So if you are constantly flushing out things that are supposed to be there, you're creating a disbalance. Now, if a doctor says you have an excessive overgrowth of a parasite in your body and we need to temporarily treat it with medications or natural herbs or whatever, then you would treat it naturally for a period of time. You wouldn't always be on an anti-parasite cleanse because that's going to eliminate the good stuff that you're supposed to have. It's like constantly taking antibiotics. So even oregano oil, yes, it's an antibiotic, it's good for you. Black seed, yes, it's an antibiotic and good for you, but like a natural antibiotic. But you don't want to be taking that stuff all the time because you will create your own imbalances.
So what I hear is, with the exception of honey, we shouldn't be taking other things on a
and
daily
the only
basis.
reason we say with the exception of honey is because honey is considered a food. Food you're allowed every day, and food you're allowed based on what's available. So if honey is available all year round, you can take it all year round. Milk, believe it or not, milk is not always available all year round. In a natural environment, milk is not available all year round. It's only based on, does your cow have a calf? Is she feeding? Does she have milk production? You might have a season where you don't have milk and you're resorting to butter and other dairy products that you've produced when you had milk. So if you go back to like traditional farmers, they may not be drinking necessarily milk every day if their cow is not producing milk at that time. Right? It's just we live in a bit of an unnatural artificial environment. So we have watermelon in December and we have like milk all year round and we have access to everything all the time that we no longer know what's balanced in our body. We're really disconnected from the natural environment.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about senna leaves and how that helps us. Are there any other herbs that you would, from the prophetic medicine perspective,
so
that you would
if you were to
touch
come,
on?
if you were to come to my house, you would find that yes, I have black seed, I have senna leaves, which are both considered prophetic herbs. I also have kustal hindi,
Okay.
which is one of the herbs that are mentioned that you would use for like sinus infection, throat infection. You can also use it for like parasite cleanse if there is a parasite in your body, if there's any issues in your gut. So these are some of the herbs that I teach in the masterclass. So whoever takes it will learn exactly how to use those prophetic herbs. I also use olive leaf. Now, olive leaf comes from the blessed tree of olives. So olives is something that I would consume in my daily diet because it's something that we have, and it's a fermented food that's available year round. So it's not really seasonal. You'll always have fermented olives in your fridge. Olive leaves is something that I would use, but I wouldn't drink it every day. I would only use it as a therapy. So the same with kustal hindi. I wouldn't take it every day. I would only use it as a therapy. Olive leaf is actually really good for anxiety. It's really good if you have any type of virus. So it's a really strong antiviral, potent enough even to be used on those who have AIDS or HPV virus. So it's a really potent herb. It's also a relaxant, so it'll help you sleep. But again, we're not going to take this stuff every day. I have it in my like herbal pantry. I'm only going to use it as a therapeutic depending on what my children are going through.
Okay.
I also have things like licorice and rose and sage and mint and thyme. Like currently, my son a few days ago, he woke up with a really bad cough. Now, this is a child who was born and was immediately in NICU for 2 weeks for breathing issues. So from birth, he's had breathing issues. I've had to rush him to hospitals many times for nebulizers. And when he gets a cough, it can last 6 weeks. So I've like for the past 9 years of my life, it's been extremely stressful with his breathing for me whenever he gets sick. So as soon as he got sick this time, I had made thyme herbal tea for him. And within 24 hours, his cough had stopped.
Oh, great.
But it's
Wow.
taken me a while because I've done the kustal hindi with him. I've done the black seed with him. I've done all of the different herbs. And although, yes, they do help, he has reactive lungs and it tends to stay a lot longer than he ends up needing like antihistamines. And then he ends up needing like puffers. Like he has reactive lungs. Unfortunately, I have the same issue. But for that particular child, I've just discovered that for me, the thyme tea really helps my asthma and my lungs, and it really helps him as well. And so these are things that by, using these herbs, but again, I wouldn't use it every day.
Right.
I would not use it every day. I
Okay.
would use it when we're not feeling well, when we're feeling tired or our asthma has flared up, but we would not use it every day.
And are they readily accessible though? Like
Yes.
Kustal Hindi and senna leaves?
Yes, you can. Yeah, almost everything you can find on Amazon. Most Islamic stores will sell these things. So I know in Toronto there's a lot of like Iqbal Foods or Anas. There's a lot of stores that will sell these things that you can
Okay.
easily access. There's a lot of online stores that are Islamic herbal shops as well that you could find them. I do believe that we should have herbs in our house as part of our like herbal cabinet for when we get sick.
Okay.
I don't go to supplements unless something is really like extreme and the child is having difficulty taking a cup of herbal tea. The supplement is a little bit easier to give him a pill of olive black seed oil as opposed to asking him to drink a cup of herbal tea sometimes. So just
Right.
I'll adjust the level of medication I'm going to give him with the herbs based on the conditions that we're in. And there are times where we'll still use pharmaceuticals. Just because I'm into Islamic medicine and herbal medicine doesn't mean I don't take antibiotics, doesn't mean I don't take puffers,
Right.
doesn't mean I won't opt for the surgeries when I need them. I still believe that modern medicine falls under the umbrella of Islamic medicine. So Islamic medicine is the big banner, and under that, hijama falls in there, ruqya falls in there, herbal medicine falls in there, dietary changes falls in there, nature, like environmental therapy falls in there, water therapy falls in there, and biomedicine falls in there. So it's all under the umbrella of Islamic medicine. Unfortunately, we don't have a medical system that puts Islamic medicine first with all of those, little categories underneath it. We either have biomedicine or we have people who are just doing Unani medicine. Everything seems so disconnected, and I hope one
Right.
day, inshallah, that all of it will merge under the umbrella of Islamic medicine again. It used to be that way.
So, Brother Kashif, do you have any questions for us from the audience?
Yes, Jazakallah khair. We're sort of well over the hour, so inshallah, if there are any specific questions, we've shared the contact information. There was a lot of comments came up about good, for example, someone saying, "Mashallah, great conversation, great discussion. May Allah reward the sisters immensely." So as you were talking, I was displaying some of those comments on the screen, so the audience members had a chance to read them. A lot of the questions I'm looking at, we actually did discuss during the show, so inshallah. We should be okay, but if anyone has more questions, maybe this one. So maybe rapid fire, we can do a few here. What are some common myths or misinformation about black seed?
Well, I would say some of the common myths is that you need to take it every day to prevent illness. And so there's nothing in the traditional, in prophetic medicine or Islamic medicine. And again, I always separate the two because prophetic medicine is really based on just hadith and Quranic ayat. So anything that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and through the Quran or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam through the Sunnah, we would consider as prophetic medicine. But it's not a complete code of medicine. It's just specific ayat that fall under the category of medicine. Islamic medicine is what really, is an actual science where there's research and experimentation. They nowhere in the history did anyone ever say that you need to take black seed every day to prevent disease. That's a huge myth. So this is something that has become more modern, where people will say that you should take black seed every day to prevent illness because it does. And you'll see that even non-Muslim influencers are doing it. It's a trend. Everyone's on that bandwagon, Muslim or not. Everyone's promoting black seed because it's like, yes, it's going to heal a lot of issues, but again, the long-term overuse is going to cause issues.
Halal black seed gummies.
Everything.
I see that everywhere.
Everything.
For the kids. And so is it good for the kids too? Like
I give it to kids, yes. You can give it to
small
kids.
dose.
Smaller doses, obviously. You saw how small
Yeah.
it was for you and how effective it was. So you can give it to children. I've given it to my children since they were probably 1 year old. You might use an oil. You might do a little drop of oil on your 1-year-old if they're having like respiratory issues. You can also use the oil topically. You could rub it on the lungs
Okay.
You can rub it on muscle pain. And so black seed oil topically is very effective as well.
Okay.
You know, it's not just popping it as a pill, but I actually have a bottle that I'll use for asthma, and I'll use for joint pains or any muscle pains or any neck pains that are going on. Black seed is very effective for that, black seed oil.
Right.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. So I'll just ask you a question for myself, and then
Sure.
inshallah pass it to Sister Ruj to wrap it up. So Jazakallah khair for your time and the audience. And like I said, we've shared the contact information. So if there are any more specific questions, folks are encouraged to reach out, inshallah. So I was just wondering, so we've been talking about these things. Some of these things have been drawing the throats, the items you brought. Some have been creating saliva. One thing I notice a lot is when people are presenting or they're doing webinars or
Yes.
presentations at work, like the anxiety will make people's throats dry out a lot. So is there anything you recommend like before a webinar or before a presentation that might help with that? Or
Yes. So what I did before coming in is I took a spoon of honey,
okay,
because honey does that coating effect.
Okay.
Now, obviously, at the end of this presentation, now I'm dried out again, so I would probably take another spoon of honey. There are herbs like sage, which is really good for, but you would want to pair that with honey as well. So sage and honey. So you can make a cup of tea and honey, sage with honey, and then drink that before you go on, because it's going to help soothe the throat as you if you're speaking for long term. So teachers and singers and stuff like that, they tend to use honey. They'll use things like sage. Licorice root is actually amazing. It's just you have to be sure that you don't have any heart disease or high blood pressure. But licorice root is one of those herbs that can coat the throat. You would want to look for something that's called a demulcent. So like marshmallows, the original marshmallow, the leaves that you make marshmallows with, they're a demulcent. There's other herbs that are just going to help create that coating. But the quickest way for me is just a spoon of honey. That's what I did before coming in.
Jazakallah khair. That's great to know. Inshallah, I'll definitely be trying that out more now. So Sister Ruj, I'll pass it off to you to wrap it up, inshallah.
Sure.
Just tell me what you thought of this.
Very interesting. A lot of it were very instant changes. This was really strong, but it kind of like calmed down as we kind of moved along.
Right.
But it was a good experience.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
And does it make you think differently about the foods that you're consuming?
Oh, yeah. Like instant, right? For sure, yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
So before we wrap up, I just want to maybe if you can give us like one takeaway from this for the audience that, something that we should kind of keep in our minds.
So I think one of the things that people talk about a lot is, the Hippocrates statements, let food be thy medicine, right? And I think that's really important, is that stop thinking about pills and supplements and other things that you need to be taking in order to rebalance your health. Try to think about, how can I rebalance my health with the foods that I'm eating? You can't do what you were doing yesterday and the day before and the year before expecting a different result. So if you don't like where you're at today, then you need to say, I need to make changes to what I'm consuming every day as part of my day-to-day diet, right? And so it always has to come back to the diet first. And the changes that need to be made are usually hard things. You have to take things that you don't want to take out. You have to add things in. I mean, you didn't like the taste of arugula, but when you see its medicinal benefits into your life, you start to add it. And then it changes. You change the way your children eat, your family eats. It changes your mindset. And then over time, your palate changes. Every 2 weeks, your palate will change depending on what you expose it to. So we have to stop being stuck in our old diets that have been inherited from generations after generations, right? Otherwise, you're going to inherit I don't believe in inheriting the disease. You're going to inherit the same bad habits that'll cause the same diseases. Right. So if your parents developed diabetes, if your parents developed high blood pressure, then the diet that they were on was the leading cause of that. For us to continue in that same path and think we're just going to add a supplement to fix it isn't going to work. So it's just shifting that internal mindset that it has to come from diet first, and you have to do the hard work to change the trajectory for your future generation of your kids and your grandkids, that, to introduce the things that are actually about balancing the health first from food.
It's a hard work, holistic approach to medicine or even health, and ensuring that we're not looking after or going after quick fixes.
Everything that's good for you is going to be hard work. Everything that's good for you is going to be hard work. Whether it's working out or walking or going to the masjid or fasting, none of it is easy. None of the things that we do for Islam is easy. Waking up for Fajr is not easy. Right? Waking up for Qiyam al-Layl is not easy. Fasting is not easy. And that's the same with food. The other thing that I want to stress with regards to food is a lot of people get really stuck with because there's so much information, they'll get really stuck with food about really trying to control how healthy they eat. So I won't use, Teflon pans, and I won't heat my olive oil. And they get really obsessive about this stuff. And I say to them, that's also a danger, because now you're making the nutrition your biggest worry in this world, right? Which diverts us from really, we're supposed to be focusing on our akhirah. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bless you, but don't be so obsessed about every single thing needs to be perfect. It doesn't have to be organic. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I think that one of the modern trends that are passed around is, if you attain this perfect diet, you're going to be healthy. That's not from Islam. That's not from Islam. Because even for Islamic sunnahs, we can't implement everything. So what makes you think you're going to implement everything for food from non-Muslims? Right? So just simple way. It's just eat to nourish yourself. Keep it simple. Don't let it overtake your life. Don't let it stress you out. Healing comes from Allah. Knowledge is nur. It's light. And the more you put these pieces together, the easier everything becomes.
Right. So Jazakallah khair, Sister Iman, for joining us today. Really appreciate the knowledge that you've shared, and even last time, like just tremendous amount of information that you provided. So Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you. And Jazakallah khair for our viewers to join us. Don't forget to follow and subscribe, and check out our page for additional information, and reach out to her if you have any questions as well. So Jazakallah khair. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khairan for having me.